Welcome to the Intentional Man Podcast, a podcast that inspires and equips men to lead lives of intentionality and grow to their full potential. I'm your host, Jonathan McGinley, a life coach that helps men just like you create the life that you want and live a story of significance through my coaching and tools on intentionality. Thanks for joining and welcome to the show. All right. Thank you for joining me today. Just wanted to start off by saying thank you for being here. It really means a lot to me that you take the time to listen, and I hope that you find value from the content. And today I'm really going to be talking about some of my main takeaways from the interview with Sam Skipworth. And I hope to provide you with some great tools to take those concepts and implement them in a really practical way. And Sam and I talked about the importance of self discipline and managing your time wisely. And Sam is one of the best I know when it comes to these two areas. I call him the machine because he seems like he's just so programmed, so dialed in. He's amazing in that way. So if you haven't listened to that episode, definitely would highly recommend going and checking that out. He'll give you a ton of good tools and tips and just practical ways that you can implement some of the things we talk about. And I'm hoping to just kind of take it a step further and just break it down for you. But one of the first things that struck me in our conversation was when he talked about how our habits directly affect the people around us. And he spent time in the military, and obviously, in that setting, the habits and disciplines that are built have high stakes, right? High consequences in that setting, where it literally could be the difference between life and death. But he talked about how he takes that lesson that he learned from the military and how he approaches his everyday life with that same mentality. And I think we all understand how our habits and disciplines, like when they're directly related to our spouses, our significant others, friends, family, coworkers, when they're directly related to them, we it's pretty easy to understand how it affects them, right? Like if you show up to work late or don't finish the task that you were supposed to do, it's going to have a direct negative impact on your company, on your coworkers. If you blow off your spouse or significant other time and time again, like it's going to have a clear negative impact on that relationship. I think we all get that. Um, but what was interesting when talking with Sam and when we were discussing this was just the realization that even the habits and disciplines that we have that are in private or just related to ourselves do have more of an impact on those around us than we may think. And there's a famous quote by Martha Beck. I think she was the original one to say it, but it says, "How you do anything is how you do everything." And I want to be careful with quotes like this, where it has huge blanket statements that say things like anything and everything. But I think the premise behind this is very true. It has huge implications for our life. So how you do anything is how you do everything. And to me, like this really just comes down to integrity and building myself into the person that I want to be. So if I want to be a man that does things with honesty and integrity, then I have to be able to stick to the commitments that I make to myself, even if no one is around. Like if I want to be someone who doesn't cut corners or lie or steal or cheat, like then I can't be somebody who does that in situations where it doesn't directly affect someone. So like I think about the gym. I know I talk about this a lot, but it's so practical sometimes. But like it could be very easy to show up to a workout and just go through it half-heartedly and cut off a few reps here and there or lie about how much you did. Like if you're supposed to do 25, you stop at 20, you stop at 22, you stop at 23, even though you could get to 25. And you just say that that's okay. Like I just stopped short. But I do think like those kind of things can be dangerous because you're starting to train yourself to cut corners. And like this, like the same thing with work. Like if you're constantly doing the absolute minimum required of you, then you're building the habit of somebody who does the minimum, right? Like that's the muscle that you're building. So if you say you're going to get up early and have a good morning routine and you constantly blow it off, you're developing a habit of somebody who doesn't follow through on their commitments. And I know that sounds drastic, but it goes the same way. Like when you actually do those things, you're building a habit of doing them where that becomes a part of your life. But if you say you're going to do it and constantly don't do it, then you are kind of building that habit the opposite way of being a person that doesn't necessarily always stick to their commitments. And so I think like even these small things that seem really small can have bigger implications than what we really think. So when it comes a time when someone in your life does truly need you to step up, to take initiative and to lead, like if you've been constantly cutting corners on your own, then you don't have the muscle of discipline and excellence built up to rise to the occasion. So, like in the military, we hear stories of them being extremely strict on exactly how you make your bed, right? Like we've heard stories of this, and while that feels like a trivial thing to most of us, like I think they do it because it's just the habit of doing every single thing with excellence. And when you do that, and it compounds time after time after time, you are building a lifestyle of discipline and a lifestyle of excellence. And so, then when they're in a more difficult situation, they have the muscle of self discipline and excellence built up where they're ready to come through. And like, guys, I want to be a man of integrity. I want to be a man who's ready to step up at any given moment. Like I don't want to miss a situation because I wasn't ready. That's one of my biggest fears is like an amazing situation comes around and I wasn't prepared for it. So I don't want to let somebody down because of a habit of being lazy or a habit of blowing things off that I'm actually building by not sticking to my own personal commitments. So think about the commitments that you've made to yourself. Like, are you following through with them? Do you take them very seriously? Like, think about the areas in life where you might be cutting corners. Like, how can you bring some more intentionality and purpose to those so that you're building a habit of excellence? So that you're building a habit of doing things that are difficult. And that I mean, this was a huge realization for me this week. And honestly, it's not something that I always do perfect, but it just made me think about that again. And when I have that quote in my head that how you do anything is how you do everything, when that's kind of playing in my head throughout the day, like I take such a different approach to my day. Like I was thinking about that this morning before recording this, and I was going into the gym and I was like, okay, I can't skip on reps. Every time I got to go hard because I believe that that's setting me up to be somebody who doesn't cut corners. And so the commitments that we make to ourselves, they carry way more weight than we might think. And so start building a habit of discipline so that you're ready to serve those around you. You're ready to come through for them when they need you most, and you're ready to maximize the impact that you have. It would be sad to not build the muscle of coming through in situations, coming through in our commitments, and then we have a situation that appears where somebody that we really love needs us, and we just don't come through because we've been blowing things off time and time again. So, I just think that's a huge why for me. Of I want to be somebody who's able to come through. I want to be somebody who's disciplined and lives a life that's excellent and does things with excellence. And so that begins with me. I have to be able to do that when no one else is around. And the second huge kind of takeaway was obviously just how intentional he is with his time. Like this is very obvious. He gives his entire system for planning his time. So I'd go back and listen to that portion to get the whole thing. But I just wanted to zero in on one habit you can start doing today that could make all the difference in your life. And this is taking time at the end of the day to think through your following day. For me, this has been one of the most life-changing habits that I've put in place over the last couple of years. And there's days when I miss and I notice the impact drastically. And so I guarantee if you start doing this today, you'll definitely notice a big difference in your days. But I just want to make this really practical because we talk about this a lot of like planning your day the night before. So I just want to give you a quick system. And if you already have one, great, you can stick to it. But this is more for you guys if you don't have any kind of system. This is an easy way to do this to kind of just get the ball rolling. So, to make it really practical, take 15 minutes at the end of each day to reflect and plan. So, there's two pieces reflection and planning. And as men, guys, I know we have a hard time reflecting. We like to drive and do and go. And so sometimes it's hard to actually stop and think through things, but it's a game changer. So each night, get a notebook, and for the first 5 minutes of the 15, write down answers to these three questions. So I go through three questions. What was a moment in the day that I really appreciated? What was a moment that I really appreciated today? The second would be, what was my biggest win today? And then the third is, what did I learn today? And the first two questions, they'll help you reflect positively on the day. Like they're designed to help you create more joy in life and have a greater sense of accomplishment and to make sure you're really noticing the small wins that you're stacking up day after day. And if you don't have answers to those two questions, then it's a good indication of like, okay, I got to figure out how to have better answers the following day where I'm actually getting some wins, where I'm actually enjoying the day. Um, and then that last question, the what did I learn today? That's designed to help you grow from your experience that day. Like I think we've all heard the saying, experience is the greatest teacher. But John Maxwell, he likes to say that evaluated experience is actually the greatest teacher. Like if we don't actually take time to learn from our experiences or mistakes, then we usually don't actually improve on them. So experience, yes, is a great teacher, but you have to actually think through it and realize where the mistakes happened or what happened and how you can then take that into your life going forward. Because if you're making the same mistake over and over, but you never realize it or you never strategically plan on how to fix the mistake, then you'll probably just keep doing the same thing day after day. So that's a powerful question to just get us to start thinking about ways that we can constantly improve. And again, if you're having trouble answering that question, like if you didn't learn anything that day, then think about the next day how maybe you can be more present throughout the day, how you can look for situations to learn and look for situations to grow. And there's typically some area of life that we can improve on. And so you can really zero in on that and say, oh, I could have been better in this area. Okay, what was the gap there? And how can I make that improvement the next day? So that's the first 5 minutes of your nightly review. You take a notebook, you go through those three questions, and journal those out. Those are also super fun to kind of review at the end of the week too, or even at the end of the year. You can kind of see on a daily basis, like, okay, these were my big wins, and these were the things I learned. It's huge for growth. So after that, for the next few minutes, I like to just open up my calendar and take a look at all the meetings or appointments that I already have scheduled for the next day. You definitely don't want to go into the next day unaware of those things. They're already in there. So make sure you're aware of them. And then after that, when you look at those, then actually schedule in those high priority items. And what I mean by these is family time, the morning routine, time to go to the gym to focus on your health. Like actually schedule these in. And so, what I mean by that is decide the exact time and place that each of these are going to happen, and then put them in your calendar and actually put them in your calendar. Like you have to treat these like meetings or appointments that you can't blow off, like unless there's an emergency, you're not blowing them off. Because like I'm way more likely to actually get up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., whatever it is for you, and do a morning routine and then go to the gym if it's planned and it's in my calendar. If it's not, then it doesn't feel like it's that important, right? So like if I don't schedule these in, then I think they a lot of times can become secondary priorities that can easily be blown off. But if I decide the night before I am getting up at 5 a.m., I am doing, a time journaling, writing, reflecting, doing my morning routine, and then I'm going to the gym at 6 or 6:30. I'm way more likely to actually stick to that. That's the plan. Now I just got to follow through it. So after that, you've got your appointments set in there, your meetings, you've scheduled your priorities, the things that are important to you. Then I just like to make a quick list of the things that need to be done the next day. And this is just like a task dump. So I just make a list, throw everything in there. And then after I've made the list, I have to pick three things that are the absolutely like most important things to do. And a big distinguisher here is you have to pick three things that will move the needle forward. And I think that was one of the things that separates Sam from so many other people is he knows his high priority tasks. He knows the items that are going to move his life forward, that are going to get him closer to his goals or closer to his vision, wherever he's trying to go. And then he actually schedules those in. So I call these my big three. So these are the three things. And don't write down three things that are super easy. Don't write down the three little task lists that you can knock off in 30 minutes. It's like, I'm saying, like, if you have a goal, pick three things that are going to get you closer to that goal. Um, and write those three things down and then schedule blocks in your calendar where you're actually going to work on those three items. Definitely my advice would be to do these things first, if at all possible. Get these in the calendar, get them done first. So, once you've done those first, then you can just move on to the task list and start knocking off some of those things. But It's definitely a big temptation in life to just do the easy things first because it feels like we're accomplishing a lot. But then you can get to the end of the day and your life didn't move forward. The needle did not move forward. So that's why I think picking three main things is huge. Um, okay, so then the last thing that I like to do, and this I'd highly recommend this for everybody, is to think of one person in your life the following day that you want to add value to. And I think this is the most fulfilling piece of the entire planning process. So think through the people in your life and pick one person that tomorrow you can intentionally encourage and build up. And if you have a meeting already set for that day, that's a great place to start. Like, think about how you want to encourage that person in the meeting. Think about how you want them to feel when they're done meeting with you. Think about the energy that you want to bring into that meeting. Like, that will change your life. This is a discipline, a habit that has changed my life. And I want to be somebody that loves people. I want to be somebody that builds people up. But I'm naturally super selfish and self-focused. And so if I don't plan this in, if I don't think through this, a lot of times I can just go through my day and never actually do anything for somebody else. So I think this is a huge one that you can do. So in recap, we got this 15 minutes. So take a chunk of time at night and start with reflection. So those three questions, and then look at your meetings, your appointments the next day. Then schedule in your priorities. So that time for family time, that time for personal growth, that time for your health. Um, and then pick your big three and write those down and schedule in time to do those. And then choose one person that the next day you want to intentionally encourage. Write down their name and how you plan to encourage them. The more specific we get with all this stuff, the more likely we are to actually do it. And guys, I guarantee you, if you do this night after night, you will notice a huge impact on your life. It's 15 minutes can bring a huge return on your investment because they set up your next 24 hours for success. You know who you're going to impact. You know what's most important in your life. You're sticking to the things that you say are your priority. You have all those things dialed in. These 15 minutes can be a game changer. So big time return on investment. And that's all I have for you today. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode, or anything that you might add or other things that have worked for you at night. Again, if you already have a night routine, keep rocking it. If you don't, this is something that's really simple that you can start now. And thank you so much for joining. I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Intentional Man podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to support the show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, and leave a rating and review. If you are someone who is looking to take your life to the next level, accelerate your success, and live more intentionally, I would love to help. Shoot me a text at 970-430-6085, and we can schedule a time to meet to discuss your vision and your goals. Again, that is 970-430-6085. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, build a life that matters by living intentionally.